When people think of aircraft carriers, they picture floating cities, and honestly, that's not far off. The US Navy's Nimitz-class carriers come with a crew ranging between 5,000 and 5,200 sailors, 3,000 to 3,200 in the ship's company, 1,500 in the air wing, and 500 others. Ford-class carriers are designed to operate with about 600 fewer crew members, thanks to improvements in ship design, which allow the air wing to do the same work with fewer personnel. But these floating cities aren't run like your typical town. There's no elected council or mayor. As the commanding officer, the captain oversees all aspects of life in this settlement. The captains on these vessels are almost mini monarchs, but they cannot sit back and rule comfortably. Aircraft carriers like the USS Gerald R. Ford cost almost $13 billion to build, with roughly an additional $5 billion for research and development. The United States Navy has 11 aircraft carriers, and each one is a vital component of America's national security strategy. Additionally, each aircraft carrier has thousands of tasks to attend to on a daily basis and an important mission that can last for months, often operating thousands of miles in the open ocean for a long time. Of course, the captains of these massive ships are loaded with responsibilities. Carrier captains might have 2 areas on the ship to themselves, but these are no VIP lounges. There are a lot of perks that come with them, but there are also workstations, and the work never stops. So what's it like being the captain of a large aircraft carrier? In this video, we'll look into the details. Captains of aircraft carriers and ships at sea in general have an unusual level of autonomy in exercising their commands. This authority originates from earlier times, when ocean-going vessels were cut off from communications with other authorities. Since they were on their own, ship captains need to take responsibility for ensuring the success of the mission and the safety of the crew. Although modern communications technology has reduced this isolation, it can't erase geographical space. Naval ships on deployment are still separated from their home bases across a span of thousands of miles. Even with modern communications, there will be developments that require instant attention that higher authorities will be unable to respond to. Only the ship's captain can deal with such things on the spot. So how does one become the captain of an aircraft carrier? Because aircraft carriers are enormously expensive given their importance to the US Navy and expense of construction, the captain selection process is highly rigorous, and some of it will undoubtedly come down to luck. However, captains, like all other commissioned officers in the US Armed Forces, must have at least a 4-year college degree. They must demonstrate the utmost competence in navigation, familiarity with the operations of the ship's equipment, a knack for efficiently handling tasks and assigning crew members to their ideal missions, the ability to supervise all of the functions performed by the crew members, and even business functions. The captain has to make sure that each piece of equipment on the carrier, ranging from the weapons to the support gear, is up to standard, including environmental standards. Captains must immerse themselves in what those standards are. As early as 1926, the United States Congress passed a law that required both the captain and deputy captain of an aircraft carrier to have previous experience serving as either naval pilots or as air crew, and must also undergo the command of a deep draft vessel, a ship in the amphibious, auxiliary, or service category, for 2 years. Not only that, the wannabes would need to have experience serving as commanders or aviation wing captains. But that was just the start. Today's requirements are more selective. Captains will need to have served as at least the deputy squadron commander for a flight crew for at least 30 months. There are much more stringent education requirements today too. Since modern aircraft carriers are nuclear-powered, captains must have additional education and training that involves passing a 16-month course in nuclear technology. Other previous experience must include being the officer in charge of administrative and combat matters on an aircraft carrier for at least 2 years. After meeting these requirements, captain wannabes will need to be tested on their knowledge of topics including operational rules, the technologies involved on an aircraft carrier performance, and shipborne weapons. The process of becoming eligible will typically take a total of 3 years of training plus prior experience, but even completing it successfully does not guarantee selection to the job. Every year, there will typically be between 5 and 10 candidates for the position of an aircraft carrier captain. However, when the top job on a specific ship becomes available, the existing deputy captain of that aircraft carrier is most often the one that gets promoted. From there, the deputy captain's job will usually go to one of the existing department heads on board. In this regard, one can say that an aircraft carrier further resembles a monarchy with a clear line of succession, although merit rather than birth is the most important thing here. If you do manage to pass the rigorous selection process and get one of the most important jobs in the United States Navy, what can you expect your workday to be like? For starters, don't expect a lot of vacation time. As the occupant of an executive position, the captain of an aircraft carrier will get no days off when the ship is on a deployment. Working hours might be long and sleep might be scarce. Captains must be in a constant state of alert to respond to anything that requires their attention, and with a vessel as large and populous as an aircraft carrier, there's a lot that can potentially go wrong, even with constant training. The captain must attend to every need and inspire the respect and obedience of the crew. To do this, the captain needs to be a reliable resource. Captains have to set their aircraft carriers' routines, oversee navigation in sometimes rough environments, or when the time comes, take the lead in planning complicated missions. Since sailors on aircraft carriers are deployed for missions that can last many months or even a year or more, they're separated from their families and friends back home, and communicating with them on the open ocean can be challenging. This isolation can take a mental toll on anyone, but it can be particularly trying on a ship's captain. As captains are the commanding officers on board a ship, they have to keep a respectful distance with their crews. Too much fraternization risks undermining their authority, so captains can't make the same friendships that other personnel on board the carrier can. Captains must maintain a mission-first mindset. They have the responsibility to ensure that all operations can be conducted smoothly. They not only have to do this, but be seen doing this, in order to reinforce their authority and the crew's faith in them. This exalted position among the carrier crews leaves its thousands of members with no doubt about who's calling the shots. Officially, captains are 06 grade officers, equivalent to colonels in the US Army, Marine Corps, Air Force, and Space Force. 06 officers are called captains in the Navy and Coast Guard. There are indeed other 06 officers aboard an aircraft carrier. However, the captain stands alone in seniority, and the entire crew knows who they're talking about when they say the words "the captain." Aircraft carrier captains who have particularly distinguished themselves can even be promoted to the rank of Rear Admiral, which confers command of the entire formation around the aircraft carrier to its captain. The captain has two quarters on a Nimitz or a Ford-class carrier. The first is a small stateroom near the bridge. It has a workstation and a bed to catch a few extra winks if time allows. This stateroom is not unique, as other high-ranking officers have their own such quarters, although the captain's has the benefit of being a little bigger. This cabin serves as something like a forward operational command center as well as a place of refuge. From here, the captain can quickly respond to emerging developments. The captain's main quarters are located deep inside the ship, usually on the 03 deck, which is toward the middle of the aircraft carrier's 18 individual floors. They are strategically placed, being protected from external threats while also being close enough to important areas to ensure the captain can get to them easily. Almost all of the important control systems on a Nimitz or Ford-class carrier are located below the flight deck. The only major workstations on the bridge or superstructure of a modern carrier are the bridge, chart room, radar and surveillance systems, and the flight deck control room. For example, the catapult piping launch room, which assists aircraft in their launch, is located beneath the flight deck. There is another room closer to the captain's quarters that controls the catapults. These are placed to be protected from enemy fire. When not having to leave them to go to an important station, the captain lives within quarters which furnish their occupant with the respectable perks that come with such a demanding job. The quarters are generally spacious, with some sailors likening them to fancy hotel suites. They are significantly larger than any other quarters on the ship. Enlisted personnel and even junior officers on an aircraft carrier live in communal quarters with little or no privacy. In contrast, the captain has a lot of space and the most privacy one can expect on a ship at sea. Captain's quarters offer several rooms, all of which come with comfortable furniture. The entire quarters are climate-controlled to ensure comfort and tranquility. These private quarters are also designed to be pleasing to the eye, acting as visual symbols of the captain's top position within the ship's social hierarchy. The captain's quarters on the USS Gerald R. Ford, for example, come packed with memorabilia from the ship's namesake, generously donated by the former president's family. The quarters on the Ford might be unique in this way, but they are within a tradition. The former Kitty Hawk-class aircraft carrier USS John F. Kennedy had the storeroom in its captain's quarters designed by Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis. Kennedy memorabilia was part of the decor. The USS John F. Kennedy was retired in 2007, but its successor is set to enter service as the second Ford-class carrier ship in 2025. Don't be surprised if the Kennedy memorabilia return on that one. The captain's quarters also has its own kitchen and dining room. Naturally, there's a private bathroom as well. Being at sea for long deployments is a particularly tough assignment. Because of this, sailors get compensated with more delectable food choices than is typically the case among their comrades in other branches of the armed forces. The Navy has the best cooks in the military, and the captain gets the best choices those culinary masters can serve up. Captains on aircraft carriers can choose to eat in the common dining areas or in the officers' mess, but in their private quarters, they have the privilege of choosing the menu themselves. The food served to them in their quarters will reflect their individual preferences. The captain has a team of dedicated chefs that will make sure to pay attention to the details of everything the highest-ranking officer on the aircraft carrier desires in a meal. If captains are on a specific diet, they can expect those preferences to be respected in their personal food preparation. There is a higher degree of communication between captains and their food preparers about these requirements. For example, the captain might need to avoid certain ingredients due to an allergy, but it goes beyond that. If the captain is following a particular diet like Mediterranean, gluten-free, or paleo, the culinary team will meet those preferences too. If specialized ingredients need to be supplied to meet those needs, so be it. The captain can also expect gourmet drinks. The finest wines, liquors, and champagnes will be available if the captain so desires them. These meals are good enough for presidential notice. In July 1986, President Reagan met with the captain aboard the then-commissioned USS John F. Kennedy. He liked the cookies that one of the captain's chefs served him so much that he ordered that particular sailor to be transferred to the White House so that he could enjoy them on a regular basis. That might have been a loss to the Kennedy's captain, but it's an indication of just how highly prized these meals can be. Aside from the food itself, captains on aircraft carriers get personalized tableside service and other dining arrangements customized to their preferences. For example, a birthday celebration might have full-course-themed meals tailored for the occasion. In short, captains on aircraft carriers can expect food of Michelin-level excellence, all as part of the job. Despite these perks, aircraft carrier captains don't get to spend much time enjoying them. For most of their time, which can sometimes include a workday between 18 and 20 hours, they are out and about, attending to their many duties, and even in the captain's private quarters, there is an unending supply of work to do. An aircraft carrier is always in a state of full operations. Like a city, an aircraft carrier never sleeps. There are important functions going on all the time. These operations can include the movement, assembly, and testing of explosive munitions, maintenance for the fuel needed for the ship's aircraft, and the all-important organization of the flight deck to ensure aircraft can take off and land safely. The navigation of the ship needs constant attendance too. It's not enough to set a course and then let things happen automatically. Weather conditions change constantly at sea. Adjustments will need to be made accordingly. Additionally, there's a lot of wear and tear on ships at sea, since the missions are so demanding. Sailors are constantly tasked with doing preventative and corrective maintenance. Aircraft need to be kept in repair as well. Any one or multiple of these many tasks happening all at once could require the captain's attention. Much like the White House, the captain's lodging serves as both a living quarters and command center to oversee all this activity. In addition to a private office, there is a conference room where the captain can hold meetings with other high-ranking officers on the carrier. A specialized communication center is there, so the captain can stay in touch with the rest of the ship at all times. The captain's main quarters serve as a place from which overall strategy can be mapped out among the aircraft carrier's top officers, called the department heads. These senior officers are in charge of each of the functions necessary for the aircraft carrier to carry out its mission. There are daily briefings between the captain and the department heads, in addition to other impromptu meetings that they might require. The captain of an aircraft carrier will also typically be buried in paperwork. With so many crew members aboard, there is naturally an enormous amount of administrative tasks that need attending to. The department heads will not be able to do all of these tasks. Some require the captain's direct attention. The captain must keep up-to-date logs about the ship and crew's activities. Because it's important to keep proper records of the ship's deployment, the captain must be aware of and document everything that happens on the carrier. With thousands of crew members doing things, one can see why the administrative tasks pile up quickly, and some of them require eyewitness experience, rather than a report from one of the department heads or another officer. Then there are other, more demanding operations that could require a captain's immediate attention. Naturally, flight operations are among these. During times when aircraft are taking off or landing on the flight deck, one of the most challenging tasks in aviation, the captain is usually on the bridge, a position from which he or she can oversee the takeoff and landing of aircraft. The captain can also see the position of everyone and everything on the flight deck from the bridge. Everything must be in order to prevent serious accidents, which means the captain must survey the flight deck from the bridge, which is positioned for just this purpose. The captain will need to pay attention to all of the details happening below the bridge. In rare cases when an aircraft fails to land properly or one of the aircraft's arresting wires is snapped, the captain will be responsible for overseeing the recovery of the aircraft, the safety of the deck crew, and the necessary repairs to all the equipment. The captain's schedule gets busier around the time of flight operations, which can take up to 12 hours every day. That means the captain will be on the confines of the bridge much more than in the comfort of the quarters. Before and after light operations, there will be additional meetings with the department heads. The captain will also need to be hands-on once the carrier reaches certain waters. For example, when the ship needs to navigate confined areas, such as a strait, the captain will need to be on the bridge and be particularly attentive. Aside from the baseline risk, many of the world's most important geopolitical hotspots are in or around straits. When American carrier battle groups go to these areas, there is always a risk that they will become targets, as seen recently when the Houthis in Yemen fired at American naval vessels in the Gulf of Aden, which is connected to the Red Sea through the strait called the Gate of Tears. Maintaining the safety of the ship and its crew remains the most important mission of a sea captain. Going to hotspots will likely mean fewer hours to sleep or dine in the comforts of the private cabin. More mundanely, coming into or leaving a port is also a complicated maneuver for a ship the size of an aircraft carrier. The captain will need to stay on the bridge and oversee these operations. When one sees how many tasks on the bridge require the captain's attention, one gets a better appreciation of why the captain has two cabins, with one of them being so nearby. Since sleep deprivation adversely affects human performance in all domains, it's convenient for the captain to be able to get some in every now and then before returning to normal duties. Aircraft carrier captains are rewarded for all the effort they put in to get to their positions and the long working hours that they require. Typically, to become an aircraft carrier captain, an officer would need around 20 years of service in the Navy. With that experience and the 06 pay grade, aircraft carrier captains can be expected to make about $140,000 per year in base wages, along with housing benefits for places like Norfolk and San Diego, depending on their ship's home bases, an additional $3,100 in commuted rations, and $1,500 in family separation benefits for extended deployments. The total would add up to around $175,000 to $190,000 per year, which amounts to over twice the 2023 median income of about $80,000. The benefits don't stop when a captain finally leaves the service of the United States. Upon their departure, aircraft carrier captains can expect retirement pay, medical benefits, and other perks. They will additionally have many private sector opportunities open to them because of their experience in one of the world's most prestigious and demanding jobs. How do you think you would handle the responsibilities of being the captain of an aircraft carrier? What would your personal menu look like when you had time for a meal in your private quarters? Don't forget to let us know in the comments. Also, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more military analysis from military experts. Now go and check out how aircraft carriers prepare 17,000 meals a day, or click this other video instead.